Have you ever wondered why there are 7 continents? Why oceans are connected? Why the northern hemisphere has more land? And how oceans control the world's climate? In the next few minutes, I'll explain this entire chapter in a simple and clear way, perfect for exams and full conceptual understanding. So stay focused, keep your notebook ready, and let's explore the earth like real geographers. This quote is written by Jules Verne, a famous French writer of the 19th century. He is known as the father of science fiction because his stories were based on scientific ideas and discoveries. Here, the author says the ocean is everything. So, he doesn't mean it literally. He wants us to understand that the ocean is extremely important for life on Earth. Without oceans, our planet would not survive the way it does today. Next, he says the ocean covers 7/10 of the Earth. That means almost 70% of our planet is water. So, when we look at the globe, most of it is actually blue, not green or brown. That shows how powerful and dominant the ocean is. Then he says its breath is pure and healthy. This means the ocean helps keep our air clean. Tiny plants in the ocean produce a large amount of oxygen. The ocean also helps control temperature and climate. So in a way, it keeps the earth fresh and balanced. Then he compares the ocean to a desert. The ocean may look like an empty desert of water, but it is actually full of life. And now he says that the ocean is the vast reservoir of nature. That is, the ocean stores water, heat, minerals, energy, and supports biodiversity. It plays a major role in controlling climate and weather. And scientists believe that life on Earth began in the oceans. The first living organisms developed in water. This suggests that oceans are so powerful and important that they could also determine the future of the planet. If oceans are damaged, life on Earth could be seriously affected. So this quote tells us that oceans cover most of the Earth, provide oxygen, support life, control climate, they were the birthplace of life, and they may determine Earth's future. Now imagine you're looking at the Earth from space. What is the first color you notice? Blue. And that blue color represents water. Almost 3/4 of the Earth's surface is covered with water. That is why astronauts called our planet the blue planet. From outer space, Earth looks like a shiny blue ball. But if you look carefully, you will see brown areas too. Those brown parts represent land. However, land covers only a little more than 1/4 of the Earth's surface. So clearly, water is much more than land on our planet. The largest water bodies are called oceans. The large areas of land are called land masses. When land stretches continuously over a large area, we call it a continent. Now, understand the most important point. Oceans and continents are not just land and water, they control the Earth's climate. They affect temperature, rainfall, seasons, and winds. Because of this, they also affect plants, animals, and human life. So remember this, the way land and water are spread on Earth decides how life exists on our planet. The emblem of the Indian Navy has a special motto written on it, Sam no Varuna. It is pronounced as Sham no Varuna. What does it mean? It means be auspicious to us, O Varuna. In simple words, it is a prayer asking for blessings and protection. Varuna is a Vedic deity. In ancient Indian tradition, he is associated with the oceans, the sky, and water in general. He was believed to be the guardian of waters. So, when the Indian Navy uses this motto, it shows respect towards the ocean and seeks protection while working in the seas. So, from ancient times, water and oceans were considered powerful and sacred in Indian culture. Oceans and continents are not evenly spread across the earth. The northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere do not have the same amount of land and water. One has more land and the other has more water. When you look at a map, the blue areas show oceans. But oceans also have smaller parts and they have different names. A sea is a large body of salty water, smaller than an ocean and partly or completely surrounded by land. A bay is where the land curves inward and the sea enters that curved part. A gulf is almost completely surrounded by land, but it is still connected to the sea. So, oceans hold most of the water on our planet, but this water is salty and is not suitable for drinking for humans or most land animals. Freshwater is actually very limited. It forms only a small part of the Earth's total water. This fresh water is found in glaciers, rivers, lakes and in the air, that is atmosphere and underground. Underground water is called groundwater. So, even though Earth looks full of water, most of it is salty and cannot be used directly for drinking. When you look at the maps, you will see circular lines drawn across the globe. These circular lines are called latitudes. They run from east to west. And we can see the lines that seem to spread out from the North Pole and the South Pole. These lines are called longitudes. They run from north to south. The southern hemisphere has more water. In fact, it is often called the water hemisphere because it has much larger area covered by oceans. The northern hemisphere has more land compared to the southern hemisphere. If we talk about approximate proportion, in the northern hemisphere, land and water are more balanced, but water is still more than land. In the southern hemisphere, water covers a very large portion and land is much less. Now, you might wonder, are all the oceans separate? No, all the oceans are connected to one another. They form one continuous body of water around the earth. We divide them into different names like Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Indian Ocean, etc. But physically, they are all connected. So, if the earth has so much water, why do we hear about water scarcity? The answer is simple. Most of the water on earth is in the oceans and it is salty and we cannot drink it. Only a very small percentage of the earth's water is fresh water. And even this fresh water is not easily available. A large portion of it is frozen in glaciers. Some of it is deep underground. Only a small amount is available in rivers and lakes for our daily use. Now think about another problem. Population is increasing. More people means more demand for water. At the same time, we waste water and pollute rivers and lakes. Because of this, clean and usable water is becoming limited. That is why we talk about a water crisis. So how can we save water? At home, we can turn off taps properly, avoid wasting water while brushing or washing, fix leaking taps and pipes, and practice rainwater harvesting is possible. And in schools, use water carefully, avoid unnecessary wastage. In villages, towns and cities, build rainwater harvesting systems, protect rivers and lakes from pollution, reuse water wherever possible. When we look at the world map, we see 5 oceans: Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Indian Ocean, Arctic Ocean and Southern Ocean. These oceans are not really separate in nature. On the map, we draw lines to divide them, but in reality, water flows freely from one ocean to another. The natural world does not follow the boundaries we draw. That is why we can say there is actually one continuous global ocean. Now let us talk about life in the oceans. Oceans are full of marine life. Marine means related to the sea. Marine flora means plant life in the ocean, such as algae and seaweeds. Marine fauna means animal life in the ocean, such as fish, dolphins, whales, and many mysterious deep sea creatures. Also remember, life in the ocean changes with depth. The surface layer gets sunlight and supports certain life forms. The deep ocean is dark and has completely different creatures. Finally, in terms of size, the Pacific Ocean is the largest. Then comes the Atlantic Ocean and Indian Ocean is third. The Southern Ocean is fourth and the Arctic Ocean is the smallest ocean. Pacific Ocean is present in both northern and southern hemispheres. Atlantic Ocean is also present in both northern and southern hemispheres, and Indian Ocean is present mainly in the southern hemisphere but also partly in the northern hemisphere. Southern or Antarctic Ocean is present only in the southern hemisphere, and Arctic Ocean is present only in the northern hemisphere. When we look at the map carefully, the Indian Ocean is surrounded by major land masses. To the north, it is bordered by Asia, to the west by Africa, and to the east by Australia, and towards the south, it meets the Southern Ocean. Now, look at India's position. India is almost like a peninsula projecting into the Indian Ocean. On the western side of India, we have the Arabian Sea. On the eastern side of the India, we have the Bay of Bengal. So, remember, India lies between the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal, both of which are parts of Indian Ocean. In this picture of the earth, you might have noticed some white shapes. What are those? Those white shapes are clouds. These clouds are very important because they bring rain to the continents. For example, in India, the monsoon rains that we wait for every summer actually begin over the ocean. The ocean provides moisture, which forms clouds and then brings rainfall. Without these monsoon rains, farming would suffer, crops would fail, and life would become very difficult. But the ocean is not only a giver, sometimes it can also be destructive. Oceans can create powerful storms, cyclones or violent storms that bring very strong winds and heavy rainfall. They often affect coastal areas and can cause great damage. Another dangerous event is a tsunami. A tsunami is a huge ocean wave. It usually happens because of a strong earthquake or volcanic eruption under the sea. These waves can travel thousands of kilometers and flood coastal regions. So, the ocean supports life by giving rain, but it can also cause natural disasters like cyclones and tsunamis. On 26 December 2004, a powerful tsunami struck countries around the Indian Ocean. It was caused by a strong earthquake in Indonesia. This tsunami affected India and 13 other countries. Sadly, more than 2 lakh people lost their lives. In India, the Andaman and Nicobar Islands were badly affected. The coastal areas of Tamil Nadu and Kerala also suffered heavy damage. Tsunamis do not happen often, but when they do, they are extremely destructive. The good news is that today we have early warning systems. These systems can detect tsunamis before they reach the coast, giving people time to move to safer places. There is an Indian Ocean tsunami warning system in which many countries, including India, participate. This cooperation helps save lives and property. Such events are handled under disaster management. In India, we have the National Disaster Management Authority, which works to manage and respond to disasters. So remember, while natural disasters cannot always be stopped, proper planning and warning systems can reduce their impact. Continents. You might think counting continents is easy, but it is not that simple. Depending on how we look at the world map, can count between 4 and 7 continents. For example, North America and South America are usually counted as 2 separate continents. But if we look at the map carefully, they are connected by land. So, some people consider them as one large landmass. Now, look at Europe and Asia. They are generally called two continents. But if you see the map clearly, there is no big ocean separating them. They are actually one continuous landmass. Then why are they treated separately? Because of historical and cultural differences. Over time, Europe developed differently from Asia, so they are counted separately. However, geologists often call them together as Eurasia. Similarly, Africa and Eurasia are usually treated as separate continents. But sometimes, based purely on land connection, they can be seen as one large landmass. So remember, the number of continents depends on how we define them, by physical land connection or by historical and cultural reasons. Now, let us count continents from different perspectives. If Africa, Europe and Asia are considered one large landmass called Africa, Eurasia, and North and South America are considered one continent called America, then we get 4 continents. If Europe and Asia are considered one continent called Eurasia and North and South America are considered one continent called America, then we get 5 continents. If only Europe and Asia are combined as Eurasia, but North and South America are counted separately, then we get 6 continents. If all continents are counted separately, that is Europe, Asia, Africa, North America, South America, Australia and Antarctica, then we get 7 continents, which is the most widely adopted and used system today. But you should also know that other systems also exist. So for your exams, you should remember the 7 continents: Africa, Antarctica, Asia, Australia, Europe, North America and South America. You might have seen the 5 Olympic rings, the symbol of the Olympic Games. These rings are not just for decoration. They have a meaning. They represent the coming together of athletes from different parts of the world. The 5 rings stand for 5 inhabited continents: Africa, America, Asia, Australia and Europe. The continent Antarctica is not included. That is because Antarctica does not have a permanent human population. So remember, the Olympic rings symbolize unity among the continents where people live. In this diagram, you can see that each continent is shown using small squares. These squares help us compare the sizes easily. More squares mean a larger continent. First, count the number of squares for each continent. The continent with a higher number of squares is the largest, that is Asia. The continent with the least number of squares is the smallest, that is Australia. Now compare the following. Between North America and South America, count the squares. You will notice that North America has more squares, so North America is larger. Next, compare Africa and North America. Africa has slightly more squares, so Africa is larger. Now compare Antarctica and Australia. Antarctica clearly has more squares than Australia, so Antarctica is larger. Next, color both Europe and Asia with the same color. When we combine them, we call it Eurasia. Now count their total squares together. You will see that Eurasia becomes much larger than South America. Finally, arrange all the continents from smallest to the largest. First is Australia, Europe, Antarctica, South America, North America, Africa and Asia. This activity helps us understand the relative sizes of continents clearly. If you carefully observe the earlier maps in this chapter, you will notice something important. The continents do not include all the land on Earth. Some smaller pieces of land are not counted as continents. These smaller land areas are surrounded by water on all sides. Such landforms are called islands. Now you may think continents are also surrounded by water, so why are they not called islands? The answer is size. Continents are extremely large land masses. Because of their vast size, they are not classified as islands. Islands are much smaller compared to continents. There are lakhs of islands on Earth and they are of different sizes. Some islands are very small while others are quite large. The largest island in the world is Greenland. It lies between the Arctic Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean near North America. It is so big that its area is close to the combined area of the 10 largest states of India, which helps us understand how enormous it is even though it is not a continent. Now coming to India, India has more than 1300 small islands. These islands are mainly divided into two major groups, Andaman and Nicobar Islands located in the Bay of Bengal, Lakshadweep Islands located in the Arabian Sea. Now let us talk about Antarctica. Since 1981, India has been involved in scientific research in Antarctica under the Indian Antarctica program. Antarctica is a very cold continent covered mostly with ice. It has a harsh climate and extreme weather conditions. In 1983, India established its first scientific research station there called Dakshin Gangotri. Later, two more research stations were set up. So far, about 40 teams of Indian scientists have conducted research in Antarctica. Their research mainly focuses on climate change and environmental evolution. The settlement where scientists live in Antarctica even has facilities like a library and a post office, showing how organized and permanent the research work is. Oceans and continents are not just physical features. They are vital parts of our environment. Oceans send rain to the land as part of the water cycle. Without oceans, there would be no rainfall. And without rainfall, the earth would become a desert. Another very important fact, more than half of the oxygen we breathe comes from tiny plants in the oceans. That is why oceans are called the planet slugs. So clearly, oceans regulate climate and make life possible on Earth. Oceans have also shaped human history. From ancient times, people used oceans to travel to new lands. They traded goods across seas. Armies crossed oceans during wars and millions of people depend on fishing for food. Coastal communities developed their own cultures connected to the sea. Many of them have stories about sea gods, sea monsters, and treasures hidden in the ocean. So remember, oceans bring both blessings and dangers. They give us rain, oxygen, food, and trade routes, but they can also cause storms and disasters. That is why oceans are central to both nature and human life. The United Nations has declared June 8 as World Oceans Day. Oceans act like the lungs of our planet. They give us oxygen, they provide food and even medicines. They are a very important part of the Earth's biosphere, meaning they support life systems. But sadly, human activities are harming the oceans. Every year, millions of tons of plastic waste are dumped into the sea. This plastic chokes marine animals and damages the marine environment. There are many other types of pollution as well, chemical waste, oil spills and industrial waste. And the serious problem is overfishing. When too many fish are caught, marine species start declining. So remember, oceans protect us, but now they need protection from us. It is our collective responsibility to keep oceans clean and safe for the future of the planet and humanity. So, the Earth is made up of oceans and continents. Oceans are all connected and cover most of the planet, while continents are the major landmasses. We usually follow the 7-continent system. The northern hemisphere has more land and the southern hemisphere has more water. Oceans are extremely important. They regulate climate, support marine life, give us oxygen and make life possible. But today, oceans are under threat because of pollution and overuse. So, it is our responsibility to protect them. The future of our planet depends on how responsibly we treat our oceans, because protecting oceans means protecting life itself. So with this, we have completed the one-shot revision of the chapter Oceans and Continents. I hope you found it easy to understand. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching. We will see you again in our next video. Bye bye.